channel, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today I'm going to do a flip through of the final pages of my large Dylusions journal, which I started last year, and you'll see the first half will be linked in the description box below. So I think this is the last page I started on, which was a lift from an Inky Quill page, which I absolutely adored, and I just wanted to recreate it myself. I just love the colour combination of this one. This is a page just playing around with some dye inks, some new stamps and stencils I got from Scrap FX as part of the design team. So layering it over using Distress Oxide inks, doing the backgrounds with some sprays and some inks in the background. I was playing around with this awesome metallic pen. I think it's called Molotov Liquid Chrome. They're just amazing. Just it looks in person it looks like pure silver on there. This large image is an image from Little Raven Ink, one of her printables, and I just stenciled over the top of it. So this is just sort of a play around, muck around, and in this journal I tend to use it as a bit of a use it up journal as well. So if I've got extra paint left over, I tend to scrub it into this journal if I don't have my little one available. And this is one of the pages I did that. This page I just got my new neon set of neon paints, and I was just trying them out, seeing what I loved about them. Did some stenciling over top, some mic making. I had some printables that were sent to me in some Happy Mail, which I stuck into my book as well. This is a printable from Inky Quill as part of her Patreon. Just having fun making a mess. As you can see, I was still playing with the neons. I had some extra pages. I think I'd also been gel printing with them, so I put that when I was rolling the gel print out, I was rolling into here. So I just put a black stencil over top. This one was a stencil from, I think it's Donna Downey in the background. This is an image transfer I did when I was gel printing as well. I gel printed on the paper, which is book paper, and then I'd done an image transfer over the top and just cut it out. And I just liked the quote and worked well with an image transfer because they are so imperfect. So imperfection is perfection to a beautiful perspective. So I quite like that. This page is sort of the beginning, I think it's the second or third page I did with my 100-day project, and the rest of these pages are a lot of my 100-day project that I'm doing at the moment. So this is a really simple page with just magazine collage, just taken off I think a hairdressing or a shampoo ad, having the image in the background, just putting different eyes on it and different lips, and just adding in some mic making and a quote. In the background I did some journaling, and it was kind of personal and I didn't want it to be so obvious, so I just stenciled over the top with a black pen. So I like the fact that in person I can read it, but you really have to sort of look at it to read it. This was playing with some Distress Oxides in the background, and you can see the circles here. I was using the microglaze wax. Ranger has a similar wax. Tim Holtz has a similar wax to this, which just resists, it seals paper, and I really liked how that worked together. The image itself is a Stamperia rice paper, which I glued down, and then some of the Tim Holtz wings over the top. The little quote is from one of those Flow paper magazines, which I cut out, just printed onto vellum. This is another page where I'd been gel printing with my neon paints and just sort of rolled it into my book. Did some mic making with some foam stamps that I just got, so again just playing with my new equipment that I've got. And I did a collage doll, which I really love doing, and I quite like the handbags, with sort of trying to balance everything, work, family, everything else, and I quite the quote appeals to me because I really don't know what I can do with my life, so this worked well. This is another page trying to replicate this sort of background. I found, and those people who follow my channel, my love-hate relationship with the Distress Oxide inks and the sprays because they are water reactive. So I wanted to do the same sort of technique, but I used the Dylusions paints in the background in the pastel colours, and I quite liked how soft it was. Again, it's a Stamperia paper just put over the top, and I've edged it with some wax, and the colouring in here is also done with wax and just applied with my finger. Just to add a little bit more shading, I've gone over the lines with the Stabilo Oil Pencil and just water activated it, so you get this really soft image happening. This is a page inspired by Chrissy Mannix with the Dylusions inks in Pure Sunshine, Cherry Pie, and I think there's the Lemon Yellow as well. I do a lot of my work with acrylic paints, and I found doing this page and a subsequent page when I was trying to use the dye inks, I was just getting really frustrated. And I think for me personally, because I love building layers, I struggle with the dye inks or water reactive inks because I just cannot build the layers that I want to build. So I really like this page, and I really like the background. I love the colour combination, and that's directly inspired by Chrissy because it's not a colour combination I would have picked myself, but just in general I don't enjoy using the dye inks as much as I know other people do. But I've just done this sort of quick collage doll here. It's a really simple one. I haven't really changed all that much, but I've gone back in with my Posca paint pens and added some detail to her clothing. This is more my cup of tea, and I'm sure to some people it looks like a hot mess. This is just gluing down lots of leftover pieces from the collage collective that I had in the background, and I got some new liquid acrylic inks, or paints, sorry, that I was working with, and some new stencils, so I was just playing with those. And the bonus I found with the acrylic, liquid acrylics, so it's a much finer paint, fluid paint, than say the heavy body Dina Wakley paints, is you can get a really great ghosting technique with it. I just loved how clear it came up in the background. When I'd done this page, I sort of had this piece of collage in the middle, and when I collaged it, I just was putting stuff around the border and I slapped that big rectangle piece in the middle, not really thinking about it. But once I sort of did the background, it started to, because of the different colour to the background, it looked like it was a painting. And I happened to have this, it's an ad from a Marie Claire or something that I'd already cut out a long time ago, and it was just perfect. So I just loved how that came together. And as soon as I'd done that and it looked like she was painting this, I've got my I'm an Artist stencil out and did that in the background. Most of the rest of the journal, I've been on a real Dina Wakley kick, inspired a lot by her artwork and her sort of colour schemes and so on. So that sort of comes through a lot, and that's particularly on this page. This page I was gifted this serviette by my, well, it wasn't really gifted. She had me over for dinner one night and they were sitting on the table, so I did borrow one, and it ended up in my journal. The background, again, I was playing with those liquid acrylics. I was really loving them and getting these beautiful patterns in the background. So I'd sort of done both pages. I finished off this page, and this page was sitting blank for so long. I just wanted something really simple on it. So this is a page from the Collage Collective from Dina Wakley, just cut out the sort of body. This is a stamped Dina Wakley stamp for her hair, and I've just coloured that in and then done some simple journaling around it. So I really like how it kind of ties together. Again, you can sort of see that same thing coming through, and I tend to, when I'm working, use what's around me. So you can see here I was using the circle stencil, it was sitting out, so I continued to use it. And this flower stencil comes up a lot because, again, it was sitting near where I was working. I did this page using the collage faces from Dina Wakley and painted over it and sort of scrubbed into it. And again, this page is sort of sitting empty for a while, and I just decided to go in and do a large quote here. But it still wasn't lacking, I was lacking something, so I went in with the metallic washi tapes, which I really loved how that picked it up and tied the two pages together. This is a page, I've done this technique a few times before, and I was just playing out, just using the abstract figures instead. And I really liked how it came together. The only thing you need to be aware of, which I wasn't when I was doing this, I tend to heat set a lot of my paints, and the Stabilo oil pencil is quite waxy, so when I was heating this page, it transferred. It doesn't really bother me, but just if you were doing it in your journals and that sort of thing really annoys you, just be aware of that. This page, I think it was my 50th page in it was my halfway point in my 100 days project, which I'm doing. Sorry, I had a mental blank. And again, I got some new stencils, I got some new stamps, so I was just playing out. And the strong colours in the background are those liquid acrylics, which are these ones that I keep talking about. So again, like my stencils, they are sitting out, and they've been ones that I've been playing with a lot. I was actually not very happy with this page for quite a while. It started out really bright, and then it got really, really dark. And particularly when I sort of stenciled these crosses along the background, what changed for me on this page was actually outlining with white, which is a really, really simple thing to do, but it just suddenly brightened everything up again. I then got this image from the Dina Wakley College Collective, and I really liked how the turquoise picked up in the face. This is the other page I was talking about when I was talking about the spray inks. Again, green is not my go-to colour, I have to say, so I was sort of pushing myself outside my comfort zone when I was doing this. It just wasn't working for me. It certainly wasn't working with the strong contrasts I got with the orange and red page. So I ended up going back to my stables of acrylic paints and stenciling over the top and putting some collage on. And I've also got some gold modelling paste on here just to sort of brighten up the green somewhat. While I had the dye inks out, I did come across this page by Inky Fairy Designs by Carissa, which is using modelling paste in the background, and instead of using modelling paste, I used the unicorn paste, which is a gel medium with iridescent flakes in it, to use as my pattern, and then just dribbled ink down onto my page. It's a gessoed page, so you can see it sort of whited out the colours somewhat. They've stayed brighter over here because they're over a gloss gel medium. It's a really pretty page. It's a really easy technique to do, so I suggest you have a look at her YouTube channel and check that one out. This one again is just a bit of a used up background. I had these, they're again from a Flow magazine, which I really liked. This page is very unmade, but it was what it was, and it worked in this page. And this is a new stencil I got, and of course it didn't quite fit on over here, so I moved it over. Yeah, it worked. These two pages are, again, you can tell the darker pages, the ones using those liquid acrylics. This one was trying to keep the same colour combo, and again used a magazine image and just used my Posca paint pens over the top to add some details, and some of the Jane Davenport washi for the eyes and the mouth. Cut a little crown out of washi, and I quite like how it's very monotone. This page has a lot going on in the background, but I like how I managed to keep it slightly lighter than I have done with the others, and I think again it's putting that white back in. Now, those people who follow my channel, they know I've got a running battle with my white space, so doing things like this for me is my way of putting white space back in again, and it just really grounds the image. This image is again from the Collage Collective from Dina Wakley, and it's a beautiful image of her scribbly birds. On this page I was trying to replicate the background I got over here, and you can see it got a lot darker, and it's not one of my favorites, I have to say. I tried to rescue it somewhat by again putting some white in the background to pop the image out, which did work, but then my quote got lost, so again I outlined that with white. This page is a really, really simple page. It's kind of cheating because most of this image that you can see here is actually straight out of the Dina Wakley Collage Collective. I've just added some extra stamping over the top to replicate the circles, and I've done the stenciling as well. And just to kind of make it a little bit more mine, gone back with the Stabilo All Pencil and scribbled over the top those scribbly lines just to put them back in and put some shape back into the face again. These two pages, again, are not me per se, but I had fun making them. I did this page first. I really liked the background, so I had the background of this page just sitting there blank, which I've done a few times in this journal. I tend to work in double spreads, but I've started doing single spreads, which surprises me, but I think that's because I'm doing the 100-day project and I don't have as much time as I used to. So I've got time to do one page, but not necessarily a whole spread. And I was playing with the new Dina Wakley leaf stencils that she had, and copying a tutorial, or doing a tutorial by James Burke Creative on how he does these funky mermaids. And I really liked the line work on it. And I liked the way that I was able to put the stencils over the top and lay the stencils up. And I found these stamped images that, again, I sent by Happy Mail by the lovely Kerry from Dina Wakley, these beautiful fish. So I coloured those in using scribble sticks and stuck those on just to make it a really fishy scene. A few days later, a few weeks later, I can't remember, I got the die cut set from Art by Marlene, which had lots and lots of mermaids and fishes and fishes, it's terrible, fish and seahorses and so on. So I broke those out. Down the bottom I have some sandstone modelling paste, which is sort of gravelly, it looks like sand, so I just applied that down to the bottom and then built up my scene around it. So all of these images are all just die cuts straight out of the book. The only thing I've really done to them is I've edged each of them with the Stabilo All Pencil just to give it a little bit of shadowing and to pop it out of the page somewhat. Even the letters sort of fit in from that book. And I just love how the colours all went together. It kind of plays as one page. This is one of my favourite pages I think I've done in a long time, and I did this, my heart was singing. It again is using some of those liquid acrylics, but using the Dylusions in the back, not Dylusions, sorry, the Dina Wakley paints in the background, and using my favourite colour combination, which is fuchsia, cheddar and turquoise or sky blue. The stamp is from Art by Marlene, and I stamped it onto tissue paper and collaged it down, and then added paint over the top, and I added neon colours to it. And I found if my page is looking dark and I add some neon to it, it just suddenly adds some light spots to it. And I think going back in just with a white paint pen instead of adding lots of different colours has really helped brighten that page again. So this was such a fun page to do. I've done a similar page which is up on my YouTube channel at the moment, which was for the Aussie YouTube Hop. It's one called Play. Slightly different colour scheme, but it's similar technique, and this video will be going up in the next while. This page, I was playing with some leftover paints. I was doing some backgrounds for a class that I'm teaching, and I had some leftover paint. This page I finished off my bubblegum pink Dylusions paint, so I actually got it finished. It has started to go really, really clumpy, but I was able to spread it out to do the background. And then I stenciled over with the turquoise, teal and the pure sunshine, I think. And it was really bright, it was really nice, and I loved it. And then I decided I want to put, I'd seen a video, I think an Inky Quill video, or a Let's Get Inky video, where she'd done some black and had the colours over here. And I tried to do the same, didn't quite work for me, and everything else got a little bit dark. So I fixed it up by spritzing it with white ink and then putting a big white quote over the top. So not all storms come to disrupt your life, some come to clear your path, which I quite liked. And this very fierce looking figure sort of looking towards it. Again, I've decorated with Posca paint pen and then put on some of the washy eyes and lips. I find this is a really handy cheat because you've got different scaled sized eyes, mouth and nose, and sometimes when you're looking through magazines it's really difficult to find the right sized eyes and noses to change them up. So if you're really struggling and you have this washi tape, have a go at just trying that and see if it works for you. These 2 pages again was playing with those liquid acrylics, and you can see sometimes it's a hit and sometimes it's a miss, and this page was probably a miss in the background. It was really dark and it was really bugging me, but I sort of had this light spot in the middle. I'd also just found a typo calendar that I'd bought, a Disney typo calendar from 2014. It was sitting on my shelf, so I decided to start cutting that up, and I found this image of Alice looking a bit manic, and I thought it would be a good fit with this page. So the quotes from Alice in Wonderland, I knew how I was this morning, but I've changed a few times since then, and that sort of summed up this page because it went through a huge amount of metamorphosis to get to where it was. This page as well was the same because, again, the background was kind of created at the same time, so it's got the similar colours, and there was lots of pattern on it. I'd used a lot of foam stamps in the background, which I really like, but they're much chunkier than regular stamps, so you've got very dark lines when you're stamping it out. So I needed something to sort of tie it back together. I found this paper again. It's from Jane Davenport. It was collage papers that she put out, which I really loved, and it sort of reminded of, it has her picking flowers in the garden anyway. So I stenciled the dark room doors, wildflowers in the background, cut the image out and stuck that down, and then used the flowers that were in the paper, tore those out and adhered them, and went back in with the stencil over the top just to put in the center of the flowers again, just to sort of blend it all in together. And I liked that, but it was still very yellow and green. So I needed to, for my sanity, because I just couldn't handle both pages being so yellow, knock it back a bit. So I put some white gesso at the top, did the ghosting technique and rubbed it off. So it kind of looks like bubbles, rain, picks up the bubbles that are in her dress, and then collaged over the top. You can, you will create the world you want, be the answer. So I like how it turned out in the end, but again, it took a while to get there. This page, on the other hand, I love. And I think it's just because it's got the bright colours in it, and I've broken out my neons again because I am obsessed by them. This is, again, me just collaging in the background using the mark making stamps. And this is one of the mark making stamps that I've just then gone over with 2 different colour Posca paint pens and put in some white to sort of create that background. The 2 images are again from the Jane Davenport paper. I'd cut all 3 of them out and I was playing around with them on this page. This one worked the best, so I had the 2 others sitting there and I sort of was playing around with them, and I didn't want to lose them, so I thought, well, put them in the back here. It doesn't really tie together, but I just like how bright they are on the page. And again, I went over the images with a bit of the neon paint just to brighten it up a bit. This one was quite a crimson, dark crimson colour, so by putting the neon pink over the top, it just sort of changed up the colours somewhat. These 2 pages, well, this page in particular, are some of my favourites. As you can sort of tell, I was going through a bit of a funk. Everything was getting darker and darker, and it was really bugging me. And when I need to hit a reset in my art journaling or what I'm doing, I tend to go back to products that I love using, colour combinations I love, things that I'm really comfortable with, so I don't need to think about what goes well together. And as you've seen before, using the fuchsia, the cheddar and the sky blue are colours that I really adore using. The other thing that was bugging me, and it happens to me every year when I do the 100-day challenge, is I run out of ideas, or I run out of steam, or I just need something to get me going again. So I found this book sitting on my shelf, which I've flipped through and read, but I've never really actually followed. So I broke into here and followed decided to actually go through and follow one of the classes, which was this one. And I came up with this page, which I love. The image of the face is one of Dina's stamps, which I've just again drawn over. I've stamped it out in a light colour and then just used the Stabilo oil pencil over the top. Just sketched out a really simple shape for the body. I've used the stencil from Darkroom Door in the background, and again sort of masked out around the face, so you've got this nice clear face and that really soft stenciling in the background, which ties in because the stencil is all about relaxation, being calm and peaceful and well-being and all those sorts of things. When I'd done this page, because I'd watered down the paint so much, I was cleaning off my brush on this page, and as I was doing it, I knew I really loved this technique and I wanted to try it again. And at the moment in the Dina Wakley Media Tribe, they've got a challenge on for June, which is night and day. So I thought this is very day-like with the yellows in it, so I wanted to do a darker version. So again, I did sort of same sort of things in the background. You can see the sort of stenciling, and I've just used some, put in some more blue on this page than I had on this page. And then masked out my figure. This again is the companion stamp to this one. It's just, they're quite big stamps and there's just 2 of them on the sheet. And then instead of putting the light blue around, I've put the darker blue. So there's a lot of layers on these pages, but I think it's still really restful to your eye. And yeah, I just love them. Particularly this page. I think if I was game, I would tear it out and stick it up on my wall. These 2 pages, again, are following examples that are in the book. I'm particularly proud of this page just because I've kept white space. Yay! Stupid thing to be excited about, but I was really proud of myself that I actually did it. And it was really, really quick and easy to do. And again, just using some stencils and just being restrained, which I really struggle with, as you can see with this page. But I love this page too, because again, it's using color combinations that I don't usually use, but just overlaying a lot of stuff. This page is a challenge to do like 25 layers. I don't think I actually got to 25 layers, probably close, but just overlaying things and just simple things like, again, I don't stencil with white very much, and I don't white out stuff very much. And just by doing that, I really just love how it comes up in the background, that softness. The other thing that I don't, well, actually I do. That's a lie. I'm going to say I don't usually use black or dark grey very much in my work, but I probably do. But I liked how it came up with the stencils, and again, just sort of knocked it back. And this is using Payne's Grey, not actually a black, which I really love because it's just not quite as dark as a black can be, so it's a little bit softer on the page. After I've done these pages, this is actually the final page that I've done in this journal. Again, it was based on one of the images in the book, but I've kind of none of them I followed step by step because I just don't do that. I kind of look at the images of the placement and think about how I would do it myself, and play around with it. And I just loved how this page went together. I'm in love with this stencil at the moment. You can see I've used it a lot recently. Again, it's not a stencil I would usually pick up, but it's just worked wonders, and I just love the softness. Again, this is stenciled using the Payne's Grey. I also challenged myself to use my dye inks, and I really actually liked how they came up. It did get rid of some of my white with the overspray, which bugs me somewhat, but it worked. I did some gel printing in the background as well, so it was just lots of fun. And again, stenciling with the white, and I think that's probably where I need to go with my white space, is to use that stenciling with white to knock everything back. The quotes or the word stencils are from Flutter by Designs, and I've just sort of Frankensteined this one. There's a big bit of the quote missing in the middle, and I've just sort of compressed it together so it sort of sits. So I was really happy with how that page came together. Finally, this is the last page, and if you've watched my Use It Up journal, I explained why I do this on my last page, but basically it's just a way for me to use up all my washi tape. I love these washi tapes. I love the colours of them. I really don't use them enough in my art journals. So by putting them in here, and particularly by putting it across the full spread, it actually strengthens the bind. So it's less likely to come out. The two big images are from the Dina Wakley Collage Collective. The eyes are from the Jane Davenport, and just putting a bit of bling. I probably need to put some silver over here just to balance it up a little bit. So that is the final page in my journal. So there's a lot in here I love. There's a lot in here that's a bit but that's what journals are all about. So I hope this has inspired you to get your journal on and have a go. If you want to see what happened in the beginning of my journal, go back and see the journal page that's tagged in my description. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye for now.